question of the day. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word cereal? Do you think of a brand? Does a cartoon character pop in your head? You know, whatever it is, pause the video and let us know. Here are some amazing statistics. 49% of Americans eat cereal for breakfast every morning. Cereal is the third most popular item at the grocery store, and 2.7 billion boxes of cereal are sold annually. Now, the actual definition of the word cereal is any grass that produces a seed that is used for food. So this would be like your rice, your oats, your wheat, your barley, those types of things. Those aren't the cereal, those aren't the things that pop into people's head when you say cereal. Because nowadays, in modern time, when someone says cereal, you instantly think of the packaged, processed, boxed, ready-to-eat cereals in the cereal aisle at the grocery store. Well, when those cereal grains go through that process in order to make those packaged cereals, they lose a lot of the nutrients that were in the original grains. And that product at the end stage of that whole process, it looks nothing like that original grain. A lot of times it hardly has any of the nutrients that were in those original grains. So in other words, today's cereals are not whole foods. Later in the video, I'm going to talk to you about ways to know what you're buying and know how to choose a healthy cereal in the grocery store. But honestly, I don't really recommend cereals as a breakfast staple. I don't think it's something that you need to include on a daily basis. And I like to call cereal fake food because it is processed. And that's really the number one reason why it's not a good choice. It's processed. When a food goes through that processing, it loses a lot of its nutrients. It's not in its original form, and all those vitamins and minerals that were so concentrated in that natural whole food are now gone. And yes, they may pump synthetic vitamins and minerals back into the cereals or back into the food products, but it's not the same as getting it in its original form. One of the other main reasons that I don't consider cereal a good breakfast is because most of the cereals out there are way too high in sugar. When I'm in the grocery store and I look at these boxes of cereal, some of them have like 15 grams of sugar per serving. That is literally like 4 teaspoons of sugar per serving, and a lot of people eat way more servings than what's listed as the recommended serving size on the box. So right there at the beginning of your day, you are starting your day off with a lump of, this whole amount of sugar. And then the other reason is it's typically devoid of fiber. And, there may be a little bit of fiber in there somewhere. And, but the majority of the time, these cereals are so low in fiber compared to the fiber that was in the natural whole grain before the processing occurred. And the reason why you want to eat whole grains is because of the fiber content. So it's really an oxymoron. You don't need to eat carbohydrates that are devoid of fiber. You're just going to be hungry in 2 hours, and then you're, of course, going to get more calories. And then the last thing is a lot of times they don't have enough healthy oils, and they don't have enough protein to be considered a balanced breakfast. And if you've ever watched the cereal commercials, a lot of times they'll show Lucky Charms and they'll say part of a balanced breakfast. And then in the commercial it'll have eggs and it'll have orange juice and it'll have, just several items there on the table showing the balanced breakfast. So I just want to make you realize that it can be part of a balanced breakfast, but it's not a balanced breakfast. Of course, there are some really bad cereals out there, and strange that it be, it's all the kids cereals, all these kids cereals marketed to our children who are growing these bodies, and their bones are building, and their skin is multiplying, and they're growing bigger, and then we're giving them the sugar every morning. What is our problem? So these cereals are going to be your Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Puffs, you know, all the cereal boxes that have these cartoon characters on them and have these fun commercials geared towards kids to get them interested and beg for their parents to get them this cereal. Well, the main reason why these are bad: too much sugar, too little fiber, and in general it replaces healthier breakfast items. I mentioned that I don't recommend cereal as a breakfast staple, and I like to call it fake food, but there are some exceptions to that rule. So if you are in the grocery store and you want to choose a cereal, I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. But one of the good things about cereal, if you choose the right one, is that usually it's eaten in combination with milk, which is going to give you some good protein, really good calcium and vitamin D, which most children especially are lacking. So I like to call this rule the 5-5 rule. So when you're in the grocery store and you're looking at a cereal box, just skip the fancy phrases, the fancy names, the pictures, how healthy it looks on the cover. Just skip all that. Go right to the nutrition facts label. And my 5-5 rule is it needs to have at least 5 grams of fiber per serving and as close to 5 grams of sugar or less per serving. And this is really going to narrow down your choices, because when you start looking at all these cereals, you're going to realize that there are not many that meet that rule. But the ones that do, those are going to be your healthier choices. And then when you're looking at the ingredient list, do not buy a cereal that has sugar in the top 3 ingredients. That just means that there's a lot more sugar in that cereal than you need. And also, you know, make sure that it doesn't have artificial flavors, artificial food colorings. High fructose corn syrup is a big one. All those types of things you want to stay away from. And the other main thing that's really important to you for cereal is make sure it's 100% whole grain, and that'll be listed on the ingredient list. And I didn't say 100% whole wheat. That's a completely different story. 100% whole grain, and that's going to ensure that you are getting as close to the whole food as possible. And then some of the brands that I do recommend, and I've found that they seem to be pretty consistent with my 5-5 rule, or pretty close to it. Kashi, Cascadian Farms, Food for Life, and Nature's Path. So those are the cereals that are usually on the very edge of the cereal aisle. They just barely made it in that aisle because they're considered the healthy cereals. So don't, pass up the middle of the aisle. They're usually on the ends, and that's where you'll find these brands. If you are a cereal eater, I just really want to challenge you to find a healthier alternative. If you are, eating the high sugar cereals at the grocery store, look for something that meets my 5-5 rule and some of the other parameters that I've given you. And there are so many good reasons to do this. It can lower your cholesterol, it can improve your blood sugar control, it can help you lose weight by helping you stay full longer, it can increase your bowel movement and regulate your bowel movements. And it can just give you more energy overall. It's really a great way